Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode is once again brought to you by our friends at Galactic Comics and Collectibles at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com. We welcome actress and writer, I forget the actress part. She's an actress, but she's a comic book writer to the podcast, Hannah Rose May, to discuss The Guy in the Chair, Exorcism at 1600 Penn, Rose Gallery, Smile for the Camera coming out in 2026, and in the next installment in the Exorcism at series, Exorcism at Buckingham Palace, and so much more. But before you listen, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places. And you can rate, review, subscribe over on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcast. You can also find us over on YouTube. And as always, visit capesandtights.com for so much more. But this is comic book writer Hannah Rose May discussing her comics and so much more. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Hannah. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I know that we've been trying to do this for a second.
Yeah. So I got your other half there with Utkarsh came on and talked about The Guy in the Chair not too long ago. He's also a big sports fan. We talked a little quickly before about how I'm a sports fan, but like he's also, so at the end of that, we tried to sign off. Like, I'm like, okay, see you later. I gotta go. And he's like, so do you collect sports cards? I was just like, man, I would chat with you for hours, but I've got to go pick my kid up, so I got to leave. But yeah, so we had Utkarsh on. It was amazing, and actually watching the current season of Ghosts has been amazing too. We'll get into that a little bit about how you were actually on Ghosts with your writing partner there. But so yeah, I mean, we've both been busy. You're a busy person right now. You have multiple facets in your name. You get multiple slashes now with your name, with actor and writer and all this stuff. So have you been? What have you been doing to keep yourself busy right now? Like, are you writing? Are you acting? What's going on right now in the life of Hannah?
Keep myself busy as in work-wise or for fun?
Yes. Oh, both. Either way.
Yeah. Work-wise, we obviously have The Guy in the Chair currently being released. Our third issue comes out this month. Not sure when this is being released, but I assume probably right before the release of the third issue. So we have that. It's a 4-issue series. I have the sequel to The Exorcism at 1600 Penn, which is The Exorcism at Buckingham Palace.
Mm-hmm.
That will be coming out this March. And right before that, I have Smile for the Camera, which is the first comic of Smile the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a Smile verse. It's like, oh, it's funny. It's like I think I've seen posts of like the Exorcism at universe now and the Smile universe. I guess all these universes to these things. So, no, but it's really cool to see that. Like it's I've been big fan of Rose Gallery. I was a big fan of 1600 Penn, and so like those are not 1600 Penn. The Exorcist is 1600 Penn. We'll separate that.
Penn, the code name.
But yeah, so I'm a big fan of those, and then obviously when I saw you and Utkarsh working together on The Guy in the Chair, I was like, this is a must read for sure. And then the announcement came out, and like, you're doing a sequel to Exorcism at 1600 Penn, and you're doing this Smile for the Camera, which is funny because Utkarsh was like, I can't tell you what she's working on right now, but it's cool. And so I was like, oh, and then the announcement came out. I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait for more of that. But
it's a hard one to keep quiet. I bet.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But so you're an actress, you're a writer. Do you influence each skill? Like, does one influence the other, or vice versa, or is it pretty much separate on that side?
It's funny. I keep checking. I just got my fringe cut, as you can see, and I feel like I've got little hairs of it somewhere on my face. So if I'm,
do you want me to call you out and tell you
when little random, they're like tickling my nose. Anyone who has a fringe or bangs, as the Americans say, will know how annoying it is to get it cut, and then just the little trinkles. I'd actually imagine it's like a man when you shave your beard.
Yes, yeah,
it probably feels very irritating.
Same thing, yeah.
Anyway,
just down here.
I'm just like a little cat. That's why. What was your question? Oh, how do they translate over?
Do they influence each other? Do you try to keep them separate, or is it something that just? I mean, it's probably hard to keep them separate. There's probably some sort of bleed between the two of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest compliment that I've got with my writing is that the consensus seems to be that the dialogue feels very real, and which is like they couldn't tell me anything better. And I think that comes from me being an actress.
Mm-hmm.
So I do read my writing out loud. I am that person who walks around my office, and if there's like dual conversations, I will say it. And that's the joy of being an improv actor, is just making sure that stuff feels that it lived in.
Hmm.
So I am that crazy person in my office with my headphones on, saying stuff out loud if there's multiple conversations happening to make sure that it feels organic. So I guess in that sense, yes, I have taken the acting over into the writing.
Hmm.
And yeah, comic books are one of those things that you don't really understand how many hats you wear as a comic writer until you're in the space. You are the director, the stylist, you're everything in between. And I think from being on set, from watching all the people who wear all those many hats, I've been able to take those little pieces and bring them
Hmm.
over to comic books. So yeah, if anything, I think acting. Oh, did I lose you?
No,
Stop
I'm here.
calling me. Stop calling me. Thank God. Why does it do that? And the second a call comes in and the Zoom screen goes the opposite direction.
I
Um,
don't know. Technology baffles me sometimes. I used to fix computers for a living, and they still baffle me to this day on that. Yeah, but I mean, so you have, I mean, you're an actress, but I would think that more people nowadays, I said more people because it depends on the crowd and the size, but to me, you're a comic writer first now, like, which is great. Your acting's great and I love it, and all that stuff. But like, I feel like to me, it's like comic writer who also acts in a sense
I
because
lead with that now, for
yeah,
sure.
because I think that it's like you've had some success in comics too. I mean, if you and also I think it's a difference. I think there's some from fringe people who might not understand this, but like yourself, I put Patton Oswalt in that category where it's like you're diehard comic fans. So this is not one of those things where you're like, I'm an actress and I have the ability to maybe get my name to a publisher and be like, oh, you want to publish my comic book because you've seen my name in film credits or TV credits. This is more like, no, I really want to write comics. Am I correct about that? Like, this is something
Yeah.
you really are passionate about.
Yeah. I had been in the comic book space for years before my first book released. I was attending obviously cons. I was similar to what you're doing. I was hosting panels and interviewing comic creators. It's been the biggest love of my life, honestly. Comics are.
Yeah.
And I took when the pandemic hit and the acting industry essentially halted, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. So I started writing Rogues Gallery. I had no idea that Rogues was going to be essentially like an overnight success. Like
Mhm.
that was insane to me. It was one of those things where I was like, this could probably be the only book I ever write, and that's okay. People may dislike it, and I'll have like hit a bucket list moment for myself. I had no idea that the day that released, I would have two other offers for different books in my inbox, and it just kind of it never stopped, basically. Since the release of Rogues, it's one of those things that if I'm not writing, I'm like a day behind
Mhm.
what I should be doing now, which I'm
Yes.
very, very grateful. I tell everyone I'm going to be like the meme from Rose on the Titanic when she's old and she's like, it's been 80 years or whatever. Like, that's what I want to be when I'm old and gray, sitting at home, still writing comic books. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
do lead with comic now just because it's what I spend the majority of my time doing.
Mhm.
I am
Mhm.
essentially now like a full-time comic book writer. But if
Yeah.
anyone wants to hire me on the acting front,
To go
please,
ahead, right? Well,
yes.
speaking of that, so what's funny about this? So I got preparing for this recording. You read some of your stuff again, like that I've already read, or you look some things up online, so on and so forth. But to me personally, I rewatched season 2, episode 5 of Ghosts because Ghosts is one of my favorite shows. It's one of those shows that like crosses over between my wife and I. Like we like the just the style of the comedy and things like that, and watched it. And what I love the most about it, if anyone hasn't seen it, the best part is that technically you could come back, right? I mean, this is like according to storyline that could
Mhm.
that could happen because you're not dead, you're not like all that stuff. Like there's a clean storyline to the point where like you could just reappear someday. The
Yeah.
question I had about on the actor's side of this is though is was it difficult to act with Utkarsh knowing that he can't see you? Like
No,
technically, like
it's
in the
funny.
show, like he's not supposed to be able to see you because you're a ghost.
Yeah. I think the only thing that was difficult in that sense was because Utkarsh and I had obviously hit it off at
Yeah.
con. So it's like you want to essentially like shoot the shit,
Yes.
friends. But everyone on that set has it down that I just got to blend in with everyone else and followed everyone else's eye lines. They've done it for so long.
Yeah.
Um, how how Utkarsh doesn't look at us is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Like he truly has to zone out, because it's like your natural instinct when you hear something to like glance in that direction. It's really impressive that he doesn't, honestly. But no, the second obviously that they call cut, everyone's like chatting and
It's trying to,
whatnot.
yeah.
And then the second that the cameras are rolling again, you're like, pretend he's not. But we can technically look in his direction.
He just can't look in your
So,
direction. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But you don't want to do it too much because you don't want him to be looking at you, you know? Um, but yeah, no, I would love to come back on that show. I would love, obviously, an episode with Hetty and our equal arch enemy, to be together. I think like to have the three of us
Yeah.
in a room together would be really fun.
I also love that episode because it's like Hetty's husband or ex. I don't know
Yeah,
how to consider ex-husband because she's dead. They're both dead. Whatever it is, it's just
yeah,
still dead in the vault. Like he's
I
just
know.
still on the floor.
It's
Like they just
there.
like we're trying to dispose of our skeletons like slowly so it's not obvious to people or something like that. I thought that was pretty funny. But no, I think it'd be great now that you two have written a comic book together. It'd be funny to somehow weave in comics to it, like that you know, Utkarsh goes to a comic store or something like that and comes back or something. It'd be funny as hell if they were to bring that into it. If you did eventually come, because there has been characters who have come back and things like that. But I
Yeah.
do feel like, and you must feel this way when you were on set. They do seem like they have fun together. Like the set itself is fun.
Oh
It
yeah.
seems like all the ghosts, including in non-ghosts or whatever, but the regular actors and actresses have fun, and you can just almost bleeds from the screen that way that they just have fun on set.
You can tell it's like a real family.
Mhm.
It was very intimidating joining that cast because immediately, even when I met them all, you could tell that they were so intertwined, but also it was like so warm to be able to walk
Mhm.
into that environment because it was the most welcoming environment ever. I I tell Lukas all the time, I'm like, you are so lucky and so fortunate because it's one of those kind of jobs, especially in this town. There's not a lot of shows that go on for that long, never mind 22 episodes.
Mhm.
It's a real gem. And you know, I compare it to the likes of Friends, honestly.
Mhm.
Like obviously Friends went on for 12 seasons or
Yeah.
something, I think, 11 or 12 seasons. But they're all a family and you can feel it on the set. And you know, now that they've been at it for so long, like has directed,
Mhm.
Utkarsh is now directing for this new season. So
Mhm.
they're all stepping into other lanes and they're able to do that because they all love each other and support each other's work so much. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a real gem of a show, and I'm very excited because the creators of that have another show coming out now that they just announced called Eternally Yours, I think that's the name. Don't hold me to that, but if you Google it, there's a
Yeah.
definitely eternally in it.
It's okay.
Eternally is in the title somewhere,
Okay.
which is one of those ideas that when I read, I was like, God, that's a good idea.
I
Which
love that. Like when you have that creative person that you see and you're like, how the hell did you do
yes,
that? Like, how did you come up with this concept?
I
It's
wish I
just
had have done it,
so I'm
but
like, ah, it's
yeah,
insane. What was it recently that I saw that happened to? It was to me, it's always been the comic book artist Mike Del Mundo.
mm,
His artwork is just phenomenal. It's
yeah.
beautiful, beautifully illustrated. But also there's like a level behind it that's just like the detail of what is actually in the picture that makes a lot of sense too. Like, you know, Captain America jumping out of a plane and it'd be a skull in the clouds that he's going through. Or my favorite is actually on the wall over there. I have a print of it. It's signed by him. It's Darth Vader's mask and the slits in his breathing apparatus. And Anakin Skywalker is putting his head through like he's in prison.
Well, I'm gonna
And
want to see that now after this.
and it's like, oh my gosh, like to me, I'm like, it's so beautifully illustrated, but in the same sense, how the hell did your mind
Do
think
it.
of that? Like to me, it's like it could be like crudely illustrated. I'm like, that's phenomenal. But to have the talent to illustrate something that's that mind blowing in my mind, it is awesome too. So yeah, seeing this,
Mark
next
Silvestri, I
project,
think, is also
yes,
very good at that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I've got somewhere behind me.
Hey, see, there you go. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
it's just like it's the talent. Sometimes I'm always like, screw you.
Yeah.
It's like I would say screw you to you because you're such a good actress, but also you're a good writer and like you have multiple talents. And I hate no, you know, all that stuff. But no, it's funny how that works. And so you got this relationship now with Utkarsh, but all you know, on the set. And if you go back and if anybody wants to go back and listen to Utkarsh on the podcast, he discusses a little bit about how when he first met you and you said you were going to be on set with him, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" for a second there, or whatever. whatever. And then he had this he felt the obligation and need to defend his comic book knowledge to you, that he had to be like, oh, I know this and I know that, because he was afraid that you were just going to be like, oh, it's just this actor who you know, whatever. And the fact that he's like, I had to feel like I had to pull out like, oh, I have a #1 or a first appearance and all this stuff just to like to prove himself to you. Did you feel that he had to do that to you?
Not at all. I always joke he showed up to set on Wednesday on New Comic Book Day, and he'd been to the store that morning and brought in all the weeklies for me, which was very, very sweet. But yes, he definitely was on a mission to be like, I'm really a fan, I swear. And I'm like, I'm a woman in the comic space. You don't have to prove anything to me. All we do is constantly have to prove that we're real fans. Please, I believe you. Um, and then when I met his parents were like, we have a basement full
Yeah.
of back issues. I think they've been pleading with him to come and empty them out for many, many years. But no, I never. And here's the thing with comics in general, I will always believe someone if they're a fan, and even if they've only picked up a book and they want to now wear the hat as a fan. In my mind, if you've read a book and you enjoyed it, you're a fan. You don't have to
Hmm.
go back to the moment you fell out of the womb. I think that is inherently the problem with the fandom, is that we have to there's this kind of like gate, there's the, we say that's very gate kept, in the
Yeah.
sense where it's like, if you don't know this issue from this date, from this run, no, because then we're not welcoming our arms to like
Hmm.
new readers. And I do think, the likes of is particularly like the likes of me crossing over from another industry,
Yeah.
the benefit of that is that you do bring a bit of an audience from the previous industry who want to support you. So when I get DMs and they're like, my first ever comic book was Rogues Gallery, it's the best thing you can ever tell me. And then they've gone and supported me through 1600 and they found a love for the space. That's all we could ever want, really, is
Hmm.
because we need our industry to have new readers, because if we don't, then we'll die.
Hmm.
So we need new readers and new audiences coming. So yeah, it was very funny that Utkarsh was trying to prove himself. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm so insecure as an actress on this set. The imposter syndrome is like boiling over.
I mean, and it's true. I run panels at our local convention. Because I do this, I have the ability to speak to people, and I have this flow that I obviously can help with. And the guy who runs it is a tattoo artist, and his other buddy is the one that runs the rest of it. He's like, I'm not very good at this. Can you help me with it? I'm like, I'm not very good at it either, but I'll give it a shot. But there's always like this niche small thing that I know the actor or actress that's in the panel that I want to talk to about that half the people or 90% of the people could give two shits about. I just met Eric Estrada from famous from Chips. He was in a Tony Hawk skateboarding video from like the 1990s as a police officer. And I'm like, I wanted to talk to you for like an hour about that, but all these people out here have no idea what I'm talking about right now. So I had
Yeah.
to, but it also felt like there was a mixture of me wanting to talk about that for a fandom, but also wanting to prove myself that I knew him more than just the what everybody else knows him for. Like I felt like I had to insert myself as like I am knowledgeable. And then I did an anime panel where I'm like, I have no idea because I don't watch anime, so I don't like that's not a dig to anime. I just don't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know, and everybody's like, boo, and I'm like, I don't want to tell you. I
There's
can't.
there's
Just
so many fandoms now that
yes.
you just can't have your fingers in all of them, like it's impossible. I got asked about a video game recently and I was like, I've never heard of that game. Like transparently, I've never heard of that game. Um, like that's but the fandom for it is ginormous. It was a space that I'm not in.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was very funny.
I can see it. I can understand why he's doing that too. You know, it's hard, and especially he wrote for Marvel Voices, and so he does have a background in writing in that sense too. But like, you almost have to feel like you have to prove yourself to you because he has to feels like you have to prove yourself to everybody else. Like you said, the fandom part of it. Like I feel like but we have now Keanu Reeves is writing comics and Patton Oswalt's writing comics and the Jay Baruchel. There's all kinds of actors and actresses now who are, I say more actors because there isn't that many
Yeah.
actresses, you know this, who are writing comics, but like there are, and it's those people who come from fandoms, and I feel like they almost, like you said, there's a gatekeeping to it where they have to like prove that that was a passion that they now want to do, not using it as I see it as an avenue to potentially create a
Grab an
film,
IP.
or I have
Yes.
because it's popular right now, because of variant covers or whatever it may be. And so they get into it. And so it's like most of the people who have successful comics that have been crossed over like that are because they're passionate about it. Like they're not just writing a story to write a story, and so because it's like a fad or whatever it may be. But and so most of those people I just mentioned are phenomenal comic book writers who also act. It's like it's just people can cross over. No one ever questions. I'll tell you that. Not no one. Very rarely does someone question someone who writes prose novels and then
100%.
crosses over to comics or the opposite. But when you go from like something like acting to going into writing comic books, it's like a wait a second, prove your worth kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we'd be lying if we didn't, if there wasn't IP grab attempts in the industry. You can see them,
Yes.
and like I'll even say that as an entertainment person who crossed over, that the difference for me was obviously I was a fan and people saw that and all the success that came from it was happy sense,
Mm.
wasn't planned. But yeah, of course now IP, as the industry says, IP is king,
Hmm.
but I think the community can tell when something is quote unquote an IP grab.
Yeah.
You can tell because it doesn't necessarily come from a place of love or come from a team who have been in the space. They've kind of popped out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Um, and look, there's power to them,
Hmm.
but I think that's where the insecurity has stemmed from a little bit in the industry is that we'd be lying to ourselves if we said there wasn't bits and pieces of it. We can see it.
Yeah.
But I think if anything now our concern has more so shifted to that becoming more like AI art and
Yes.
all of the other problems
Yeah.
that we now have in the community. So
But I feel like there's less question. I've interviewed people on this podcast, and there's nothing hard. Not this is nothing against them, but like who have tried to make movies with a script or a screenplay of some sort and then decided
then
that
try
it
to,
then write it as a comic because it wasn't taking off in movies, and then they said, oh, if we make it a comic book then maybe it will start to see more eyes since it's a proven concept. But to me, and there's not as much pushback on that side of things as it is as Hannah Rose May coming in to write a comic book, which is interesting because it's like those are the people that are writing, like they're physically admitted, which is fine,
yeah.
taking a script, a screenplay, and writing it into it. I mean, or writing it into a novel or whatever, so on and so forth. But I also believe in, because I've interviewed people. Daniel Krauss is one of my favorite writers. He's also a phenomenal comic book writer who has said sometimes there's stories that are made for prose novels, and sometimes they're made for TV, and sometimes they're made for comics. It depends on the story, and I think that reading your work, all of them could be both. Like could be a TV show, which would be great for you and great for a lot of the fans of your stuff.
Very flattering.
Yeah, but it also breathes comics. Like it's like Guy in the Chair to me is written by two people with screen time, but also reads as a comic. And so to me, it's like it feels genuine if no one knew who you two were. And I'm saying you two because you're the writers. There's obviously a creative team behind it, but like it breathes comic and it bleeds comic, and I understand that, and I think I read it that way.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and I'm sure Utkarsh really appreciates it too. It's obviously it's coming from two avid, very
Mm,
much comic book lovers, and for me, I've been full-time writing comics now since the release of Rogues Gallery.
yeah,
So I essentially have written. I couldn't even count the amount of singles now that are under my belt.
yeah,
And it's funny because as you said, like actress crossover to comics, it's actually interesting for me because I actually think the majority of my acting success actually happened simultaneously to me
with comics. Yeah.
releasing my comic. The first year of like Rogues Gallery coming out, and I started booking a lot of work. Obviously I was on Ghosts and like Curb Your Enthusiasm came later, and like those big career hits happened after the fact,
Mm,
actually. When I had kind of taken off the actor's hat, and I was like, acting is so unfair. I don't have my heart broken anymore.
yeah,
But for comics, I get to like actually see the results of my day. If I spend
yeah,
a day writing a page, I will see the results of it versus with acting, I'm working my arse off and then putting my hands in someone else's and like my life in someone else's hands and being like, please book me. And nothing is a guarantee and you can't take anything personally because it's a coin toss essentially. And I've been fortunate now where I am on the other side and casting conversations and whatnot. And I realize that it's it really is like there's so many variables at play that you just can't bet on it and you can't get upset over it and
mhm,
everything else in between. But I just kind of got to the point where I didn't want to have to rely on someone else for my,
yes.
you know, livelihood, for my life, for my sanity, everything in between.
Well, I mean, if you, and I guess it's the same thing with any of these people who have taken a script or a screenplay and made it a comic, or decided to write comics as a living, is that it would be, I'd say, easier. It's not easy, but it's easier to get whatever story you have in your head published somehow, whether it's a web comic or kickstarted or whatever it may be, or with a traditional publisher, than it is to try to get a role acting on a TV. You know, like it's like there's just so much finite space in the screen world compared to the comic book world, where you have more of an outlet to it. Like I say, in the same thing with music, like you can get your music out there easily. I say you don't see it a wide audience as easy, but you can get it out there. You can put it on YouTube, you can put it on Spotify fairly easy. My dad used to be a musician, and always says like he hates, but like he like has this disdain towards the current day, because it was like we had to like take time off of work and go into a studio and record this and put it on cassette tape and try to hawk these cassette tapes on the side of the road. And nowadays you can like sit in your room and record an album and then put it on Spotify in like a week. And I was like, yeah, this technology does that. So comics are easy to put out in front of people compared to getting a TV show made, if that makes sense. There's a lot less budget on that.
I'll actually politely disagree with that a little bit.
Really?
Yes. What I will say is, even from the release of Rogues to now, which has been what, almost 3 years. 3 years. It's that every publisher has really, chopped probably their releases in half.
Yeah.
And so to have a book released is a massive, massive success and a massive win. And I've got plenty of pros and friends and peers in the space who have had books going and then they don't make it. They end up on the chopping block for like financial reasons or tons of other reasons in between. No publisher is publishing as many as they used to. The Marvel have cut back. Like everyone has cut back. So, even IDW, I think now they're only doing max 4 originals a year. So one every quarter essentially. And that wasn't the case when they first started out. They were pumping more originals. IDW Dark, I'm pretty sure it's only like 3, maybe 4.
I think it's 4, yeah, but it's right around there. Yeah.
So to be one of those is a big win. So I tell everyone, it's like I've got a friend and they just wrote a backstory in a big Marvel story, and they did the back issue, and it's only 5 pages, and it's kind of like a creator thing. You're like, oh, it's only 5 pages, and I'm like, yeah, but think of all the people who wanted that gig.
Yeah, 5 pages.
And yes, and how few books are getting printed now. So it's a massive success. So, I definitely, to your other topic of like people coming over with basically unwanted scripts that didn't make it entertainment, I will say, again, this conversation is very transparent. I have tons of writer friends who have been messaging me, and I'll get calls and they're like, I have this script for this thing. Do you think you could take it? And I have to politely say no. Like, I know that I'm upsetting and offending people by doing it. But one, I just also don't have the bandwidth. Like I'm on my own creative journey. But two, I just know that like from my editors and my publisher friends, like they don't want scripts that didn't make it elsewhere. Why would they want that? Because comics are obviously, it's so expensive to print and to make. Of course, they want to have a hope at something having a shot at another life. It's never the like target. That's never what we aspire for. You have to make a very good comic first, and that should always be your number one focus. But if there is obviously hope of a life elsewhere, publishers are going to be more inclined to say yes, because they need to make money and keep the the machine running. So yeah, it's definitely it's a tighter industry, and
yes, and I do agree with that. And I 100% agree with that. I guess I've already explained more along the lines, if you had an idea, so say Rose Gallery wasn't picked, wasn't Image, and they weren't like, okay, let's definitely do that.
Kickstarter or something.
You could take it to Kickstarter if you had a following. So like for your following now that you have since the success of Rhodes Gallery, if Guy in the Chair, Dark Horse is like, yeah, we're gonna pass, and everybody else is gonna pass, you could be like, hey, Utkarsh, you want to see if we can do this on Kickstarter? And you probably would at least get it published. It may not be in front of his eyes as you want it to be, but I will say that like. And again, I guess way farther back about how you became an actress, kind of at the same. Your successful actress roles were right around the same time as Rogues Gallery was. That more people actually probably have seen like an episode of you in Curb Your Enthusiasm or that Ghosts episode than will read The Guy in the Chair, which is crazy to think about because of the fact that it's like this random episode that you're a guest star on
Yeah.
would actually, because of the number of eyes that TV is in front of. And that's why I think that perception, why even my mind had the perception of that's what came first, is because the more eyes see that
Right.
potentially. And I hope, millions of people read The Guy in the Chair. I really hope that case,
That
but
would be
like,
great.
I'm fine. I recommend it to millions of people to read. And so like, yeah, so I think it's those things. It's like, I think, the people see comics as a lower form
Yeah, of course.
sometimes. And so like sometimes even my mind, as someone who's in the field of comics and does this, sometimes thinks as the actress who makes it into comics did that first. And you're right, it was right around the same time where you got some of those bigger roles that a lot of eyes saw, that you did Rogues Gallery. And so that
I
makes a
think
lot of
that's why
sense
I
there.
escaped though any of the judgment that you were referring to. I don't I think I escaped it because I hadn't had real success in the acting space. I essentially just released a book and everyone was like, "Oh, she's a comic writer." And then I started getting some really cool acting roles.
Well, it was funny because I interviewed Eric Heiserer, who wrote now I'm gonna blame, he wrote Fast and the Fear, no, sorry, Final
Mhm.
Destination 5. He
Mhm.
wrote now I'm thinking a couple other really popular movies, but now I'm kicking myself for not remembering these. I shouldn't have brought it up in the first
You
place.
can't know everything.
But and he wrote comics too. And it was after the fact that I even got ready to talk to him. It was like I agreed to talk to him on the podcast about his novel that was coming out called Simultaneous, which was phenomenal. And I was like doing the research, and I'm like, wait a second, this dude wrote comics too. Like it was one of those things that like his screenplays were so
Yeah.
popular and award winning, and he's now releasing a novel which will be in Barnes and Noble and all that stuff. That comics was the one that was like, oh, he did that too. And it's probably when he talks to people, they don't even bring it up. Like he had like success. He wrote Valiant Comics. He wrote a whole series there and stuff. And it's like he had a comic book background, but yet still people are like, oh, he's an author and a screenwriter. Oh, he writes comics too. Like it's one of those things, and that's why I feel like sometimes even I get, I forget that the comics is not just this lower thing. Weirdly,
I know we feel like it's niche in a way, don't we? But it's not.
yes.
It's so much. I explain that to everyone all the time too, because like I think my family now, when I started, they were like, "Oh, Hannah and her little comic books."
Yeah, well, it's true. I tell people I go on a book club tonight, and they're like, "Oh, what novel did you read?" And I go, "Well,
The graphic novel.
we read a graphic novel," and they're like, "Oh, that," and I'm like, I wanted to say, "Shut up!" Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I actually did. I think I did a piece, a list on the website last year. Now I think I either wanted to do it or I've done it, where movies you didn't realize were based on comics. Like, there's a bunch
Oh,
of
that's
movies
a
out there
great
that like.
idea. Did you
Yeah,
do
that they
that?
don't even realize. Like honestly, like Men in Black was a comic book first. Two Guns was a comic book with Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington. Those
Yeah.
movies were actually based on comics, but it's so funny because the comics weren't uber successful that you don't see that. When something's killing the children
Extraction
now.
too, right?
Was that?
Extraction too, I
Yep,
think.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And some of those are also because of the fact that they were potentially a different name or released, like in the United States, it was released in France or in the UK or something like that. So people sometimes don't see it. But again, a lot of these, like there's, comics that were existed way before the movie, and they're all crapping over me if you're going to a graphic novel club. I'm like, did you go see Two Guns in the theater? Yeah. See, it was based on a comic book, so stop shitting on me. Like it's like technically you'd probably like the comic too. You just don't want to take the time to open it because I feel like they still, and maybe I'm still defending it. Maybe I'm still subconsciously nervous that people won't like me because of it. Because I grew up with the idea that if I liked comics, I wasn't liked. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those things that I felt like I wasn't part of the
Comics are
popular
cool.
kids.
I
They are,
know.
and I do thank Hollywood for some of that because obviously with the Marvel Studios and all them successful and all that
Daredevil
stuff,
and all the success and everything that came with it.
it's helped the industry of comics in that sense, and so I think that's huge. But now you have people like yourself and Karsh getting together and writing a comic book together, like the guy in the chair over at Dark Horse. First of all, Dark Horse is one of my favorite publishers, so that also wins a lot of credit in for you and for me in that sense. But it was phenomenal to read the first issue, and I mentioned this to Utkarsh about how you, I feel for the guy in the chair in a sense that I've always had in my entire life up until I got married. Obviously, I want to say that now. The person that I've always been attracted to or liked or whatever that I didn't even know if it existed. And the feeling for that part of that beginning story of that story, even though it's about like special ops and killing people and things like that, I still related to it somehow. It was the weirdest way to think that. If I said that to someone, I'm like, wait a second, a guy on the chair? I'm like, no, no, no. I felt like that level of wishing someone knew who you were more than just, hey, how's it going? Or barely even knows your name kind of thing. So that to me has stayed with me well after reading the first issue. So that was huge to me. I don't know if other
No,
people have
that's
said that to you,
great.
but
No, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted from it. At its core, it's a romantic comedy. That's what the everyone kept saying, like, how does this different like from any other typical spy-fi? We're
mhm,
like, well, it's a romantic comedy. That's at its core, it's their relationship. It's about connecting. It's about not being seen and not feeling seen, but then actually really being seen. And being seen for the parts of you that you don't think people would want to see and people enjoy. So I don't want to give away obviously too much
yes,
because two
yeah,
issues are only out. So but yeah, it's a like a modern day love story
mm,
essentially,
mhm,
like her like falling in love with a connection essentially without having seen or physically having
mhm.
that there
I,
yet.
I also like it's also funny because like the statement you should never fall in love or be with the person you work with is like one of those weird things. And so it's like this extreme thing where like this person's like attracted and wanting this more to know this person more they shouldn't know because it's against the
Oh, of course.
rules.
It's
But
like,
also like that seems insane. Like if two cooks in a kitchen start to date, that's like such a level that's so below this kind of a relationship would be like.
well, they say work crushes never work out, don't they? So
Especially
it,
one who kills people for a living. How about that?
yes, you said it, not me. So yeah, there's that added air
Yes.
of danger the whole
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
I think I can relate it to your parents telling you like not to go after someone and then you're gonna want them more. Because
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah. And it's also, there's, I think part of it's like when you're with someone next to someone so long and you
yeah, of
do
course.
like them, like you're friends with them, they start to become, more attractive or their
Yeah.
personality or their traits become more attractive. And so you get that, no matter what, it seems like the opposite, even if you're opposites, they will attract because of that. So talking to this person over the phone all the time this relationship becomes deeper in that sense too. But yeah, it's a romantic comedy. Do you think, so you have Rogues Gallery,
Mhm.
and then you have this, and you have exorcisms, you have horror, action, you have all the various things. Do you pride yourself in being able to be in multiple genres here?
I think where I where my personal taste is definitely more in genre. Um, I live a little more in the
Yeah,
genre thriller horror space. I think Rogues is actually a perfect example of like my personal
yeah,
appetite. That's
yeah,
why it was the first one at the gate, because being your first one, you're like, it has to be great because if it's not, I don't know if I'm getting another shot at this.
yeah.
But I was writing, I was writing Smile. I was alongside doing The Guy in the Chair. So honestly, I just needed a break from killing people. Like I needed a break from thinking about how to kill people. I was starting to get night terrors. I was like, oh my God, I need a little joy in my life. So that's where the guy in the chair was a really nice reprieve, a really nice little break. And I also, with the likes of Marvel and DC, I've been obviously fortunate enough to like write Harley Quinn. I've
Yeah,
been fortunate enough to like write Star Trek Lower Decks. And
yeah.
for those, for the big two mains, for the big two, as we say, there's not necessarily a lot of like thriller genre, but there's more action,
Mhm.
rom-com, adventure. So you want to make sure that you're still staying versatile because obviously I still forever want to be able to wear the DC jersey and I'm hoping to be able to wear the Marvel jersey.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to keep your options open. So yeah, no, it's not necessarily that I like pride myself by any
Mhm.
means. I definitely have a personal preference,
Mhm.
but if it's an IP that I enjoy or a space that I enjoy, like with the guy in the chair, my main thing always is I just really love character dynamics.
Mhm.
And I got to play with two characters in the guy in the chair that like I hadn't necessarily played with before. And so, Rogues Gallery is all character dynamics. Even 1600 Penn, it's all character dynamics. So for me, that's really where I live. It's usually the relationship with the characters that I think of first before I think of the larger worlds.
Mhm. Which is actually kind of funny now that I think about it. If you think about Rogues Gallery and this relatability or this idea that the relationship is scary in that sense because of where they are. It's also, I think I wrote my review to the idea of being a first daughter of a president is probably scary as hell in the first place.
Horrifying.
Forget adding the exorcism part, like adding the possession part of it, like adding all that to it, just adds it to another whole another level. Because like I would not, and then I probably say I would never want to be the child of a
No,
president.
no, never.
It could be the best
Never.
president in the entire universe in history. I still don't want to be the
You will
president's
have a
kid.
target on your back forever. Honestly, like that's so scary. So scary. Was it Malia who was caught smoking a cigarette and then got absolutely dragged online for smoking a
Yes.
cigarette? And I'm like, and she wasn't even that young at the time. Like I'm
Yes.
pretty sure she was of age to be
Yeah.
smoking.
And they're still
So
like, hey,
yes, you're literally publicly shamed.
yes.
Like when you think about when we were that age, if we had cameras on us and that lived on the internet till the end of time, like what does that do for your mental health? And
Hmm.
so that's kind of with Exorcism at 1600 Penn, it really is about the sibling dynamic and also their relationship to their mother and the fact that they didn't choose this. They didn't choose this life. They didn't choose to be thrown into the limelight. And you see two very different siblings taking it very differently. Obviously, Mara is not enjoying it. Kevin is enjoying kind of his newfound fame a little and being popular for once. And yeah, so that's really the main focus of that. Everything else is
Hmm.
kind of dressing. What they say is, if you for horror, they say if you remove the scares, you have to be left with a really good drama.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think the likes of Parker Finn does
Hmm.
that incredibly well. In all of his Smile movies, there's a really good drama in all of them.
Hmm.
He's also like exceptional at his scares. I think Smile 2 scares, like that dance sequence has kept me
Yes.
awake. Like it's so simple but so scary. And I think that's some of this. I think for me personally, I think that's when the things tend to be the scariest is like when like it could feel real almost.
Hmm.
Parker does that really well. So yeah, but if you look at all of Parker's movies, particularly, it's the relationships.
Mm.
Um, so yeah.
So I mean, so you mentioned that. So you have had, we had Exorcism at 1600 Penn miniseries, and you have Rose Gallery, which is a miniseries. You have this Guy in the Chair miniseries. You've also obviously we mentioned Marvel, DC.
Exorcism, I don't think we're calling a miniseries because yeah, I don't know what the term would be now because
Because
we're
it's
saying
because it's tech is
because
this technically it's a continuation but not a continuation in a sense,
they're the
like
same world. It's the
it's the
same
same world. So
world.
yeah, but you have your series, I guess, over at
Yeah.
these other publishers. You have written Harley Quinn, but not continuously. You also written Star Trek Lower Decks, but like not continuously.
Yeah.
So my guess my question is Exorcism, Guy in the Chair, Rogues Gallery are all creator owned and all your own story from ground up. Whereas you're going into the Smile universe here. What's that been like in that world building along with Parker in that sense that you have to now abide by a specific rules,
Yeah.
guidelines from a universe that's already been created, and now you're writing a series of comics that are not just a single one shot or anything.
Basically, my interest, particularly when it came to Smile, is that I just really love the Smile universe. And
Hmm.
obviously, I love the genre. And I aspire to have an ounce of the brains and brilliance that Parker Finn does. So to be able to touch his IP and to be able to work under him essentially was something that I was very, very excited about. And yeah, it's interesting. It's no different than working on. Um, I got asked this question recently, and I said that it's actually no different than working on Harley Quinn or working on Lower Decks. Is that everything you make obviously becomes canon. So they have to approve it if you're putting in any sort of origins, which seems to be the question that everyone wants to know. Um, and particularly, obviously, in my story with Smile, I'm also treading very lightly about what I say because it's
Yeah.
obviously not released. It's a prequel. So Parker had to say yes to everything. He approved the pitches, he approved the artist, he approved every outline, every script. Parker and Paramount, and he has fantastic partners in Paramount. They're really fabulous over there. So nothing is on the page that wasn't approved by Parker and Paramount. So yeah, the only it obviously, of course, like working on any IP, it has its small moments of frustration where you want to be able to like throw some like spaghetti at the wall, essentially.
Yeah.
I think in Harley Quinn, I wanted to, I'm not going to give it away, but I wanted
Yeah.
to put in a pet to some degree that wasn't just a parrot that I put in. And they were like, no, well, Harley already has her two dogs, So, so I couldn't put in a
Hmm.
pet, even though it was a dream sequence.
Yes.
So I was like, but it's not real.
Yeah.
So in Smile, there was a particular death that at one point I would have loved to do, and there was a nod to a potential question around the origin, which I wasn't allowed to do. So, but then you just pivot. That's why it's also
Hmm.
great because you have someone and you have someone who has obviously Parker has a much larger plan for Smile, and you know, someone got upset recently online when I told them I teed them up as like that you do not get the origins of Smile in our comic. I do not want you coming in thinking that we are answering that
Yeah.
because you will be disappointed. And they were like bummed about it. And I was like, but the second you get the origin, it's not exciting anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't be bummed. Be actually relieved. Because here's hoping that Parker continues to put out small movies and we continue to get little pieces
Hmm.
so that one day we'll find out.
I mean, Robert Kirkman released 100 and what 193 issues of The Walking Dead, and you still don't know how the virus started and things like
100%.
that. So like
A 100%.
you'd lose some of the allure. Not saying it's never going to happen. Not for Walking Dead. I don't think we'll ever know for Walking Dead. I think Robert Kirkman's going to take it to his death.
I don't think Robert
But
Kirkman knows. No, I'm
yeah,
joking.
exactly. At this point, he probably did have it in
Yeah.
his head. At this point, so. But no,
Yeah.
it's the films are there and there's more to build around it. And so one of these days when he knows, hey, you're allowed to make one more film, your deal's getting up or whatever, and maybe he's like, okay, at this point I want to create that. Or one day he's like, I want to put it in comic book form and so on and so forth. But I also would be upset if I went into reading Smile for the camera and it ended up not being an origin, expecting it to be origin. So I'm like, just happy to hear that sense that's not there in that. But like it's also I feel like you don't have like 100 years of backstory to deal
No.
with this. So, like when you write Harley Quinn, obviously you don't have 100 years because it wasn't she's not that old in the
Yeah.
comic book lore. But like Star Trek has a long history, and even Lower
Those are
Decks,
hard.
there's still a long history in this, and there's also a long history in Harley Quinn. Whereas this is more like you getting a quick approval from Parker and the team over it. But,
Yeah.
like you have this. Okay, cool, we'll
There's
do
pros and
this.
cons. There's
Yeah,
pros and cons to both, to be honest, because obviously, like Harley and Star Trek, it's so intimidating because, God, there's like if you were to stack the canon, it would be booked on book on books.
yeah.
And you'd feel like you would have to spend the rest of your life making sure that you weren't teeing up anything. There's a similar world to Star Trek that I have an opportunity to potentially pitch on, and in my pitch, I was Googling names and I realized that every name that you could possibly think of has probably been mentioned at some point in this universe.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't even, but I like, and I fancy myself a pretty big fan of this universe. And still, I was like, I don't remember that name, but it's like someone said it once upon a time in one comic book way back or something. So that is intimidating versus Smile, obviously, we only have the two movies, so there was more room to play, but then it's also scary because there's so much room to play. I actually like the guardrails in a way, because you know what to deliver on, you know what their appetite is. Um, and yeah, like for Lower Decks with Mike McMahon, I got like one round of notes from Mike, and I immediately knew what he wanted from me because of that round of notes. And I felt very lucky to be able to have the creator there to be able to do that. So in a way, it's like, okay, I know exactly what you want. I'm going to deliver that for you. Versus with Smile, I could have really pitched anything. I did pitch three very, very different takes though. There was someone who I probably shouldn't, but I do read reviews online and stay up
Yeah.
to date. It's the fandom. And when it was announced, a lot of people are very, very excited about it being in the
Hmm.
modeling world, more than I expected, which I'm so, so happy about. Because it obviously is an interesting world. The 2005 is such a peak time period for a lot
Season
of
for that.
people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But there was one person online and there was one comment. where they're like, why the modeling world we just saw from the music world? It seems like this similar. And in that way, because I knew it was similar, I actually knew that was the one that was going to get approved
Mhm.
because it's been tried and true. So of course they would want to stay in that space because it's kind of their like identity a little bit now,
Mhm.
you know? There was a very, very different pitch that I had pitched and like a far future type situation.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say it in
Yeah.
case it ends up coming at a different point.
Yeah.
But and there was three, as I said, three very different timelines, very different worlds, and they went with the one that was actually more similar to Smile 2 for a reason. Um, so yeah,
It's cool, and I obviously, so I was funny as I remember, those there's certain times you remember certain things were announced. Like I was actually, and my son's doing great, but I was in the hospital with my son because he had a chronic cough for 2 years, and
sorry.
he has a it's called tracheomalacia, which means his trachea is like 50% collapsed. So it causes issues. But at the time we didn't know. So we were in the hospital with him, and he's just sleeping, and I'm just in a chair. So I'm like, I'll get on my laptop and I'll do some tooling around my
Yeah.
laptop. And I get the email from IDW saying IDW Dark's being announced and so on and so forth, and their partnership with some of these movies like Smile and things like that, Twilight Zone, all those other ones. And so I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this
I
is badass. And so like I was like, wait a second, then I saw like obviously fast forward, and I was like, oh, you've been announced as the writer for it. I was like, oh, this is even better. Like it's one of those things where it was like well, it wasn't immediate like, oh, Hannah would be great for that. Like but then it clicked in that sense and in that horror, like you mentioned, the genre thing on it. And then I went back and obviously I watched the two movies again right after that announcement because I was like,
Yeah,
this is gonna be amazing, and I'm
me
so
too.
excited for it. It's yeah, I'm sure you know the ins and the outs of those movies now too. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's really cool, and I think that's what's cool about it. And we talked about the you as a professional going from one media to another.
Yeah.
This is also now more popular than ever, is taking these feature films that are really popular and putting them to comic form. And obviously we've seen it for years with Star Wars and Star Trek. They've obviously crossed over, and TMNT and all that stuff, but like some of those I just mentioned started potentially in comics. So like this is one of those things where you see it successfully on the screen, and then IDW has enough risk to take on making these into comics, and then getting people that have a following in the genre to go behind them, and so on and so forth. So like you have this ability to bring over your fandom from Rogues Gallery, from 1600, and as well as from the movies. So you have this like way different places to go into it. You also now have a bunch of people who are expecting something specific, like they're expecting the origin, or they're expecting whatever from it. So you like it's
It's
also one of those, the
tricky.
pressure's on now in that sense
It
too.
is. And I will say the pressure in that sense is that, a lot of comments were like, oh, I hope it's scary. And that made me like a little nervous because I was like, there's obviously only so much you can do in art
Yeah, yeah.
versus in the movies. And Parker is all about creating that atmosphere, and that tension with if you even the sound, if you go back and look at those moments, um, we obviously do not get those opportunities in comic books. It's entirely different.
Mm-hmm.
So already the stakes, or the stakes, the what people are expecting, are the expectations are high. So it's definitely intimidating. And even the art style, again, transparently, this has the artist Mariana, she's wonderful, but that wasn't the vision that I actually
Mm-hmm.
had in mind. But that is when you work on an IP job, you write the script
Yeah,
and they pick the artist. You don't get to pick the artist. And again, not that Mariana is beautiful.
yeah,
I think she does like the glamour and the glitz and like the poppiness of the world really, really well. I just in my mind when it came to like the demons and
yeah,
the entity,
yeah.
two worlds colliding. When it came to the entity, I'm familiar with obviously Vanessa Del
Mm-hmm.
Rey from 1600, where she has more of like a sketchy feel. I think Vanessa can create like an ambience really, really well. Like 1600, she obviously has like little demons in there that you kind of see but don't see in it.
Yeah.
I think that kind of adds to the scares in a way. I always say it's like Jaws. When you don't see the shark, I actually think it's a little scarier.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, and that's Vanessa's style
yeah,
versus Marianne is a little more literal. And her background is more like Disney and commercial.
yeah.
So it's entirely contrast to kind of the scripts that I wrote, but it works in a way for the audience for which they wanted. And, Parker and Paramount picked the artist. So this is the vision that they wanted for the comic book.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so I think I really hope that the audience enjoys it. I'm very excited to have the story out there, and it's very cool that my decade plus of modeling, I finally get to write about it because I think even if you remove the entity, in a way, the modeling industry is scary in itself. So,
Well, it's like
yeah,
you have to write, you get to write about it, but also not the writing about it that people would expect a model to want to write about. Like this is like the other side of like people are like, oh, I've seen her model, and I'm like, oh my god, like if they don't know anything about Smile or anything, like, or any of your comics at all. To be
yeah,
honest with you, there's just like this darkness that people might not see in your glitzy, glamoury ness of it. It's like one of those things where you're just like, oh, as I know, Tanya Pell is a great novelist, and she loves pink. So like everything's pink, but like if you picture like her office is kind of like on that Harry Potter, whatever her had all the pink
Mhm.
office. But she writes some freaking scary shit, and I'm just like, it doesn't connect in a way that you're just like, this is
Yeah.
amazing. But sometimes those are the people who write the most like dark and deep scary crap, is the people who on the outside might not picture them doing that. And so that's what's exciting about this too. So you have Smile for the Camera coming out. That's coming out in February, which is really exciting.
Yeah, Valentine's Day, if that's
Yeah, right around, yeah,
oh,
Valentine's
Valentine's
Day
week.
week. It's
Valentine's
the
week. I think
18th.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we actually have, when I actually was doing the research for this initially, there wasn't an FOC on this, but the FOC is January 12th now. So which is awesome. So if you're looking towards that, tell your comic book store you want it. But you also have, out of the 4 titles coming out on IDW Dark next year, you have 2 of them. And so, which is pretty awesome. So you're expanding Exorcism at to Buckingham Palace now, which is pretty awesome in that sense. It's also one of those things that I just like. Makes so much sense to do something like this, but also didn't see coming. If that makes any sense to
Yeah.
you, like
Yeah, no,
like
for
in the
sure.
sense when you talk about it, you're just like, oh, it's this one series, and then this expansion is amazing.
I'm very excited about Buckingham Palace, honestly. It's in a way, 1600 obviously is one of my children. I never pick favorites
Yeah.
ever. You should never pick a favorite child. But Buckingham allows a little more room for scares, honestly, and
Mhm.
a little more fun because 1600 we had to dance around politics a little bit because we
Yes.
didn't ever want anyone to think that we wanted to make sure the book was apolitical because
Yes.
immediately you hear the White House and people are like, oh, it's a political book. And it's that was the one thing that I loved and appreciated with the reviews too, is that people were like, this isn't nobody's
Your typical political, yes, you're not doing
yes,
this. No one's taking sides. There's none of this
there's
thing.
no
No one's making
side,
fun of anybody. Yeah, this
nothing.
is
Yeah.
yes.
There's no party. Nobody is on uh nobody is on a mission to
No, this is
pitch
that it takes
anything.
place at the White House. Like
Yes.
that's what's going to happen. It's yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I haven't talked about it in a minute, so now I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what's my
Well, man,
what?
there is also people who have said that before, and I've read this series, and so I know I'll tell you that you're honest about it. This is true. There's no
Yeah.
real sides taken. There are people who have been like, "There's no technical political party. We're talking about this," and also as you watch the show or read the thing, you're like,
Yeah.
"Eh, you sure
Yeah.
about that?" Like this is like this true. It's more about the family and the dynamics and what's going on, less about what side of the aisle you're on or anything like that. But it's a
100%.
little bit I say like easier, but it's a little bit more easier for you to do at Buckingham Palace. There's a little bit less of dancing around in that
A
sense.
100%. Yeah. For 1600, we made sure she wasn't wearing one particular color throughout it, or there wasn't any sort of like real mentions of any real enemies or anything along those lines. Like we say enemy and you have no idea about like who the enemy is, what the country is. There's no real politics at play other than the fact that she's the first female president. Like
Yeah,
that's really it. And that also isn't really the purpose of the story.
no,
It's more about her being a mother,
yeah,
honestly. So for Buckingham Palace, it's obviously we don't have to play with politics. It's more about his relationship and what happens when someone who totally was not expecting to be king ends up having to be king. And he's dealing with his own like substance issues. Basically, this guy is not clean at all. Like he is not who the crown would want
should be.
want
Yeah,
him facing. Yes. So yeah, so while he's dealing with all of that and then having to deal with a demon essentially
yeah,
seeking political power because the cat's out of the bag now. So from 1600, people know that our demon essentially wants a political play.
yeah.
Like what's scarier than a demon being at the seat of like the biggest seat in the country, essentially. But what's even scarier is what if the demons were at all of the seats
Yes.
of
See?
power?
And it's fun, and I do think it's one of those things that you mentioned. There's got to be drama below the horror or the thrillerness of it, and having this, when you set this first part in the White House is like there is still as much as I've driven by it and I've seen it from the outside. I've never been in it. My mom has gone for a tour or whatever, but
Well, you
like,
can't go in it now.
yes, exactly. You can't relate to it. But you can relate to it. Like I know that building. I know where it is. I know who lives there.
Yeah.
I know what happens there. And so at that, or for the most part, that is makes it relatable. And the drama is there. The fact that she's a mother and all that stuff, first female president. There's all that there. And the same thing. Like you have this story. This if you pull the horror out, is someone who dealing with drugs and
Yeah.
becoming king and all that, or becoming a
Yeah.
leader. And so there is this drama to it that's amazing. I think you've done well, and I think that without actually doing it, like there's also this ability to like go too far into some sort of socio-political thing to make it a subject that makes it really
Yeah.
hard to not dance around. This is, I don't know, there's something about it that's just
Fair
like right
enough.
in the middle.
It
It
is.
fits
And to
perfectly.
come back to what I just said there about you can't go in, for anyone who doesn't know, it's because the East Wing was the place where you could take the
Yep.
tours. So,
Yeah, hold on a second. Taylor. My daughter's crying, so
oh,
she
you're
just got home from
okay.
school.
Um,
No, it's okay, but I don't even
no,
have to
the
cut this
East
out
Wing.
because come on, Riley, come here. Can you say hi?
Hi.
No.
Oh, hello.
This is Riley and
Hi.
Nova.
Hi. Oh my gosh, they look so much alike.
Nova's running. Okay, now go see Mama. Go get a snack. Love you. I just got home from school, so no.
They're so
Yeah, so this is it's in the middle there. It has this ability to have a drama story that's political in a sense, but not really political. And I think expanding it to Buckingham Palace, it's also a different country, which is kind of cool too. Which is like something that you get out of, which is something that you don't not always see in comics. You see them stay in the same place. The next president potentially could come in, and so
Yeah.
it's just fun. I think it's a new unique place you're in, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I just wanted to go back to what I
Yeah,
said about
yeah.
the you can't go in now is because the only place that did tours was actually the East Wing. So your mom got to go into
You
the
see in
East
the East Wing that's no
before
longer there
before
anymore.
it's no longer there. So
Well, I
that's
mean,
why
I guess you could add to it that something had came out of the ground when they destroyed the
I'm
building.
bummed because I never got to go in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I would love to take a tour. So that every time now I hear someone, they're like, "Oh, I took a tour." I'm like, "Look at you! You can't do it anymore." But yeah, I think that's a
Well,
fair.
and it's also a sadder, like I said, like I've been into the Twin Towers, but that's a completely
Yeah.
different situation. Like I was actually in it in April of 2001, so like months later it was on the ground. Completely different situation. But yeah, it's one of those things where you're like kind of like, yeah, you can't go into it anymore. I guess maybe we'll get invited to the ballroom. We'll see.
Is
But
that going
no,
to be as exciting though? I feel like you can go to a hotel and look in there like
exactly.
room.
No,
Yeah.
and it's because I watched West Wing for all the seasons. I
No.
absolutely the show was like just fun to watch in the relationships. It had nothing to me. It had nothing to do with the politics. It was about the people
Oh.
who were working there. So 2026 is going to be busy for you. You have multiple comics you have planned, and so Buckingham Palace that comes out right after like March. Is that the goal? I don't know
Yeah,
what the
Buckingham Palace comes out on March 11th, and
okay
yeah, so Smile is out on February 18th.
18th.
So yeah, there's I'm doing signature series with Collector's Paradise for anyone who isn't in LA or in California and can't attend like San Diego or anything.
Mm,
And if anyone wants signatures, I'm doing a signature series for with Collector's Paradise. The links are online. They post them this week
I
for
saw
both
that. Yeah.
Smile, yeah, and Buckingham Palace, which I love those series because you get it signed with a certificate um to show that it's real and it's the same price of the
Yeah.
single issues
Mhm.
and you're getting all of the series. So I think they have Buckingham Palace, which by the way, Buckingham Palace is actually a really good deal. I remember I DM'd IDW to make sure that the price
Yeah.
was right. So IDW had me doing a 3-issue jumbo for Buckingham Palace. It's still 5 issues. It's still the same amount of pages, but it's been split into 3-issue jumbos. They just wanted this one in that format. Don't know why, but we're doing it that way. But so the audience don't have to wait as long. So they'll have the whole series over 3 months, but each issue is actually still the same price as if it was only 20 pages, but you're getting 40. So yeah, so I'm doing a signature series with Collectors Paradise Buckingham Palace, and it's only like 14.99 for the whole series of Buckingham, which is a steal. And then Smile is 5 issues, so I think that's like 25.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty cool. So I didn't think about it. It actually might make sense though. Like I don't know what the math behind these publishers are now with like deciding on what page count and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
maybe it makes sense more to add a few more pages, keep the price down, ship less issues, or send it to the
Yeah.
printer less. I don't know. It's interesting because one of the things I've talked about is that people don't, I think, connect the idea that a 5.99 issue usually has more pages. Like it's not
For
just
sure.
that they're trying to get more money from you, is the fact that it costs more to print. I don't know if the extra pages cost the equivalent of how much more they're charging, but there is a more charge for more pages. But like, yeah, I wonder how that would work in the future if we just entered, you know, did a 1.5 issues per issue
Yeah.
and then just
That's
sent the
essentially
price
what
around
you're
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what you're getting. I know my editor, when they asked for that, my editor Heather was basically like, you Hannah can do that, but you can't charge more than 4.99.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because I'm very grateful for everyone always supporting my work and going out, especially if I'm having like multiple books come out at the
Yeah.
same time. So yeah, you're basically getting half a free issue every issue.
Mm.
Buckingham, which is wonderful. But I also just think that indies they can't be more expensive than Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
They just can't be. Because the audience is trusting in, a new story essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Marvel and DC are now upping it to like 7-ish
Yeah.
now, so with some of their jumbos that they're doing in like the indie publishers, they have to stay under 5. It's just
It's so funny because like my local comic book shop, Galactic Comics and Collectibles, he has this like slip that he has all the barcodes for like 2.99 comic, 3.99 comic, and so on and
yeah.
so forth. That's how he does his inventory and stuff. And it's funny, he's like still has the 2.99 on there. I'm like, dude, Spawn was the only 2.99 comic left for years, and now 3.99. And I'm like, your thing ends at 5.99, man. Now there's so many more comics now that are 6.99, 7.99, 8.99. I mean,
Inflation.
yeah, it's just like so you're gonna have to print new things here, man. Like you can't do the same thing over again. But yeah, but like I said, it's quality of comics sometimes, size of the issue, and so on and so forth. But still to get more pages in the same price, that's amazing. And I also hope, and it looks like it will probably fall that way, that Smile for the Camera will come out in February. Then like 3 weeks later is when Buckingham Palace comes out, and then the following week likely. So like hopefully we're buying your comics like not on the same day because it's like I've always had Kyle Starks actually mentioned to me once that he had like a DC comic, a Dark Horse comic, and an Image comic that all came out on the same day every
Yeah.
month. And it's like if you're a fan of the a writer or the
It's
artist, like man,
so
like your
much.
budget just goes like through the roof to try to get.
No, I mean, Jerry, I remember Jerry had something coming out I think he had 3 books too, Jerry Duggan, at the same time. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I deliberately, I think IDW agreed that we had to space it a little bit.
Yes, yeah,
And also because we have so many good variants and my audience, particularly I've noticed at signings, they tend to collect them all, like Pokemon,
yes,
which is the best. Because I'm sure you saw, I think you might have saw in like the last week, like one of our store exclusives from Rogues Gallery was like
yeah,
on eBay for $2,500,
hmm
and it's one of those ones where it was like one of those covers that it didn't even hit at the time.
yeah,
And
exactly. It's
and then suddenly it hits. So that's why, one of those like exclusives that people buy, like for the one in 100, the one in 500.
yeah.
So yeah, my audience is big on the variants, I've noticed.
Well, and it's also great. And I always like this. Well, we're gonna finish up here pretty quickly, but like the
Yeah.
idea that you liked your art, Vanessa, for your artwork in 1600, and then you mentioned that there's a different artist, which is good. It's phenomenal already as it is. And then there's a cover artist, but Martin Simon's doing a variant too for me. It kind of fits that Vanessa vibe too. So I feel like you at least are checking some of those boxes off of bringing
Yeah.
that in there because Martin's stuff is like it's
Oh,
very same
beautiful.
vein as Vanessa.
Yeah. Um, that's when it comes to horror, personally, that's always just where my personal
Yeah,
taste is. I'm not sure if you saw we had a release this week with Screen Rant and they released some of the pages of Buckingham and you
yeah,
can see some of our interiors.
mm,
So we have Kelsey Ramsey on Buckingham Palace. Kelsey is an incredible British artist. So because we're obviously over in England,
yeah,
we got a British artist and her pages are similar to Vanessa, but a little
yeah,
more, she's actually probably a little more, Vanessa's a little more stylized and sketchy and
yeah.
Kelsey's a little more like details. Um, and it's exceptional. Like her background work is exceptional. Pages she's been sending, both of them are just like two dream gets. Um,
Yes. Yes.
but
And it's one of those things. It's like you like the idea that if you didn't say anything, that not many people would like jump out and notice it,
yeah,
which is kind of cool. You want it to be kind of a similar vibe, but that's different. It would be very different. I mean, one of my favorite cover artists is Scotty Young, and it would be very different if you got Scotty Young to do the interiors of your next issue. But like having someone at least in the same vein with a slight difference on it helps with that. And like I said,
yeah,
there's like this style that like is that messy, but not messy on purpose, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Not more messy like they don't know what they're doing, but more like it's intentional and thoughtful behind what they're doing. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
100%.
And so yeah, so those are it's so exciting. So like going into a year that you have multiple comics coming out already, and they're already like you're not like I'm guessing you're still pitching things and you're still trying to get other comics made. But like, do you feel good going into 2026 right now? Like, is it
Oh
like
my gosh.
exciting?
You know what? I actually just, you'll hear it here first. I can't say with what or who, but I got a book approved yesterday. So yeah, I already have my next book after once I wrap up Buckingham, which I'm on like the last couple of pages. And yeah, like Smile's already all written. That's done. I think my artist just sent layouts for four, so we're off to the races on that one. I tend to be really head on the scripts because you know, you want to once you get the job, you're like, it's in my head. I'm going to get it down. I'm going to get it
Hmm.
done. So yeah, I'll be finished with the final issue of Buckingham, and then I'll be straight into this next one. I don't think it will be announced until San Diego.
Yeah.
That tends to be where, you know, the
Yes.
announcements happen.
If it
Um,
fits in that if it fits in like it has the ability to wait till then that's probably where it's going to be. Yeah.
Exactly. I did, which I haven't posted on socials or anything yet, so it went a little under the radar, so I do have to announce it soon again. But we did mention on a panel at San Diego briefly that I am writing a story for Minor Threats for Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom. So that comes out, I think, in April. So I think I have something for the whole of
Yeah,
spring.
that's excellent. That's what we want, and it's hopefully it's also like being ahead on scripts is good too because I've always thought about like with the website a lot of times I try to be ahead a little bit because you never know what's gonna be able to try to squeeze in there.
Yeah,
Like you never know when you're gonna
especially
have an opportunity to do
acting.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, like
you never know when you're gonna be able to do something, so you want to be able to be ahead instead of be behind. Because we live in a world of comics that I think as readers we're kind of just expecting it that you are all busy and you get pulled in multiple different directions and sometimes there's delays and it could be from creation side, it could be from printing side, it could be from
printers,
publishing,
like
it could be
yeah,
everything. And
yeah.
so there is this delay, so to be ahead on something is nice, and I think that's probably just check that box off and be like, okay, that issue's done, I can move on to the next thing. Is probably nice. But before we get to 2026, you have issue 3 coming out of the guy in the chair coming out, I believe. Is it the 17th or is it actually Christmas Eve? I
Oh,
think it's I
I
think it's
don't even know. So
I think it's Christmas Eve, honestly, now that I think about it.
okay, I think you might be
Um,
right.
Guy in the chair. So
Perfect
on your
Christmas
when you're
Eve
picking up your
present.
last well when you're picking up your last minute Christmas presents, just swing into your local comic book shop because they're gonna need the end of the year finances too. So you want to help your local comic book shop out and pick up those issues. So I believe December 24th, and then the series wraps up in January and January 21st with the 4 issues there,
If
and then
you
the trade.
are one of
Yes,
those trade waiters, which we know you exist, and we
yes,
know there's trade waiters out there, our trade is available for, pre-order now. So
yeah.
it would be out right after. So
Mm,
yeah, if you missed, because I issue 1 is definitely sold out. Because I know people came around to it in issue 2 and they're like,
yeah.
oh, my store's sold out. There was mumbles of us potentially doing an additional printing. I'm not sure if we're going to just wait now for the trade. But if you missed issue 1, you can order the trade. So
Mhm. And I believe you can, if you did want to just read it, I believe you could read it on Kindle, the Amazon, whatever the heck that is
yeah,
nowadays. I think you can find it on there too. If you did miss it and you want to read it now, then buy the trade because I think it's worth it. I actually, it was funny because I literally got this package in today of like trades.
trades.
And this is all because I buy trades and I don't buy trades and so on and so forth. These are all ones that have had poll quotes on them. So I collect the
Mhm.
books that we had poll quotes from our reviews on,
I love that.
and so now I have all these here. My
Have you been
first
on any of mine?
I don't think so. No,
I don't think then.
they used
IDW
it in some
Publishing.
marketing. They used
Okay.
it in 1600 Penn for in some marketing. But World Tree issue 3 is the first one I've been on the cover for. which
That's
is pretty
good.
exciting. And so there's that. But yeah, so I got a big trade stack here. I got from my local comic book shop, Galactic Comics and Collectibles. So yeah, it's buy the trades. These are worth it to me. Get it all in one place so you can keep your single issues on your shelf in a box or something like that, and then you can read your trades when you want and get rid of it, like break them in and read them and go through them and do all that stuff on there. But also before the end of the year is Christmas, so I wanted to ask this. We finish up here. Do you have a favorite holiday movie?
Favorite holiday movie?
I'm putting you on the spot here, Anna. Batman Forever. So last year, the owner of my local comic shop, Galactic Comics and Collectibles, we reviewed that movie for
What?
December. We did it
Uh,
for Christmas. So this year's one that just came out actually the week we're recording this is Die Hard because we're like doing
okay.
these like fringe
Which
like
is
is
a
it
Christmas
Christmas, is it
movie.
Christmas, no, yeah, exactly. So I believe, and sadly to say, that Die Hard is more of a Christmas movie in my opinion than Batman Forever, but I agree with you that it should be watched around this time of year.
Wouldn't we all want Nicole Kidman under our tree because Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Phenomenal movie. I'm glad you picked that because it's also a non-traditional movie. You didn't just go be like, oh yeah, a Christmas Story or whatever. But yeah, so it's a
Elf.
fun thing. Yeah, oh, it was just also phenomenal. It's one
It
of the
is.
it's one of the few more recent movies. Someone just mentioned something about Christmas music. Like there's no good Christmas music released after like 1985 or something like that. And I was like, I can see where you're coming from on that. Like it hasn't have any heart to it anymore. It's more like commercial. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, it's the same thing. There's not super amazing, wonderful, unbelievable Christmas movies that have come out in the past 20 years.
Sad. Yeah, no,
But
you're right.
Elf is the one that like I think the latest one where it was like, okay, this is now going to be iconic and historical to people watching Christmas movies.
Yeah. And The
There
Grinch.
are other ones, but
The Grinch holds up. Like The Grinch is
yes,
hilarious. The Grinch and Elf, I will say, they are on in my household.
yes.
Like the second I'm like wrapping presents and in that spirit,
My
like
son watches my Nova, who you saw here. He watches
yeah.
the Grinch, the new animated one, like in July. He just was like, "Can we put that
Yeah.
on?" So like, I'm like, absolutely, we can put it on
Yeah.
because I love Christmas season. But yes, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad we got a chance to do this. You know, I'm glad that now in hindsight that we got an episode with you and I got an episode with Utkarsh because I feel like it would have been so much fun to be together. But also we got the chance to breathe and talk about different things because it's hard to talk about 1600 Penn and Buckingham Palace and smile when the only thing you should be talking about is Guy in the Chair because your guys are together on it. So it's fun, exciting, and wonderful. But I hope that Utkarsh gets more. Like I hope this is a jumping block for him. I hope
Yeah.
it's one of those things where he has to decide he's going to be acting. But if he has to decide between acting and writing comics, I also want to see him in more movies and TV shows too. So I'll
Sure.
take that too.
Yeah.
But
He's definitely committed to Ghost for like at least the next 2 years because we've
yes,
got like a 2 season to go.
yeah,
But yeah, definitely more movies for sure in his off
yes.
time.
Yeah, and he's great at he's got a skill behind directing and writing too. He's got that behind him too. So like, I think it's great too.
Music.
But in music, and I do think though you guys did a wonderful job together on this. So even if it's another you two guys doing something together, whether it be more Guy in the Chair or a different series, I'd be down for that too. But I do appreciate you're busy. I understand it. It's getting close to the holidays, all that stuff. So I'm so thankful that you took out the time of your day to actually talk with us on the podcast here. And I hope we get to do it again sometime in the future.
Thank you so much, Justin. This was so fun. And thank you for you know, rescheduling and making it work and us finally getting to do this. And
Yes.
Sorry I missed you before. And yeah, I had such a good chat. And
I never really
chatting for an
held.
hour.
Don't hold it against anybody. It's okay. I never hold it against anybody. There's some wishful people that I've always been in there, and then there's also some people who have had to reschedule. And I say, you know what? There's one person who messaged me recently was like, "Can we reschedule?" And I deleted them from the schedule. Not like I didn't go delete, but I deleted them from the schedule because in my mindset it was so hard to originally even try to get them to be on here. I'm like, it's probably not going to happen, which is fine. Someday in the future, maybe it will happen, but I don't want to wait and hold out hope.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what, it's gonna be easy, and I had an in with the Kirsch being on here, and I also. You have some comics coming out, so it made sense to chat again. And we had told you originally, I was like, well, maybe we should do it in like February, so like we can talk, more closer to Smile.
We'll
But
just
I was
talk
like, you know
again.
what? Forget that now. Let's do it now. And so
Yeah.
we'll talk again. We'll see. But
Yeah, we'll just chat again.
but keep up the good work. You're super talented, and I can't wait for more to come out from you. And 2026 is going to be huge. People should keep Hannah Rosemary on their radar. It's exciting. So good luck with everything and everything, and happy holidays and happy New Year. We'll talk in the new year.
Good luck and happy holidays and
Yes.
enjoy your holiday movies.
I'm gonna go watch Elf tonight. That's what I'll do. Here you go. Thanks, Hannah.
All right, chat soon, Justin. Thank you.